He walked away like you were nothing. Good. Now it's time to become everything. Let him walk. Let him pretend you meant nothing. Let him smile like he didn't shatter you. Let him post his fake happiness. Let him show the world a version of him you know isn't real. Let him say you were the problem. Let him rewrite the story. Let him be loud. You be powerful. Because this isn't your end. This is your origin. You don't need someone who could leave when you were still healing. You don't need someone who could turn their back when you needed their hand. You don't need a love that quits when it gets inconvenient. You don't need someone who didn't fight for you. You needed that break. You needed that pain. Because that pain is fuel. That silence is motivation. That abandonment is a mirror. Not of your worth, but of theirs. You were real. You loved with depth. You showed up fully. And he left without looking back. So now you look forward. Not for someone else. Not for another person to fill the space. But for yourself. For your power. For your peace. For the version of you that doesn't need to be chosen. Because she chooses herself. You cried. You broke. You shattered quietly while the world kept moving. But you're still here. Still breathing. Still fighting. And that's enough. That's strength. That's proof. That even rock bottom couldn't hold you down. Now you rise. Not to prove him wrong. But to prove yourself right. To prove that you were always worth loving. That you were always worth staying for. That you were always enough. You gave him your heart, and he treated it like a temporary hobby. So now you treat your growth like a lifetime mission. You stop apologizing for your emotion. You stop minimizing your needs. You stop settling for half love. You stop shrinking for anyone. You expand. You elevate. You evolve. You become the version of you that never waits to be chosen. The one who wakes up early. Not because life is easy, but because she's built for the fight. The one who builds her body because it's her temple. The one who builds her mind because it's her weapon. The one who builds her spirit because that's where her power lives. Let him regret. Let him realize too late. Let him scroll in silence while you win in real life. Let him watch you from the distance he created. Let him whisper your name in conversations he can't publicly join. Let him tell others he knew you back then, when you were just getting started. Because the version of you he walked away from, she was powerful. But the one you're becoming now, she's unstoppable. You're not bitter. You're focused. You're not angry. You're aware. You're not broken. You're being rebuilt with titanium. Every time you wanted to text him and didn't, that was strength. Every time you wanted closure and chose peace, that was growth. Every time you saw his name and felt nothing, that was power. Because you're no longer seeking love from the same place that gave you pain. You're no longer explaining your worth to people who can't see it. You're no longer waiting for anyone to choose you. You choose you. You choose to heal. You choose to rise. You choose to become. And becoming isn't pretty. It's not romantic. It's not easy. It's war. It's crying at 3 a.m., but still waking up and grinding. It's feeling empty, but showing up anyway. It's doubting yourself, but still moving forward. It's learning to trust yourself again after being betrayed. It's unlearning the lies he made you believe. It's rebuilding the self-esteem he helped shatter. But you're doing it every day, quietly, powerfully, without his apology, without his help, without his validation. Because you're becoming the person you needed all along. And she doesn't beg. She doesn't chase. She doesn't wait. She creates. She walks with fire. She speaks with precision. She doesn't need revenge. Her existence is the reminder. Let him watch. Let him pretend he's unbothered. Let him scroll through your wins while he's still stuck in a cycle. Let him feel the silence you once felt. Let him experience the distance he thought would break you. Because it didn't. It made you ruthless in your purpose. It made you sharp in your focus. It made you dangerous in the best way. Not to others, but to every limitation that ever tried to live in you. You don't just rise, you fly. You don't just move on, you level up. You don't just heal, you transform into a woman he'll never deserve again. Into a queen who doesn't explain her crown. Into a warrior who doesn't pause to prove she's worthy. Into a light that blinds everyone who tried to dim it. He thought you'd stay small. He thought you'd wait. He thought you'd break. But you're still here, still rising, still becoming. And that's all the revenge you'll ever need. Let him sit in his comfort. You sit in your power. Let him stay safe. You stay wild. Let him repeat his patterns. You break yours. Let him love the next one with his mask on. You love yourself without apology. Let him stay in the past. You live in the future. Because that's where you're headed. Toward greatness. Toward peace. Toward wholeness. Toward the life you deserve. Without begging. Without chasing. Without him. Because he walked away like you were nothing. But now you become everything. You don't need closure from someone who didn't deserve your openness. You don't need an explanation from someone who lied with a straight face. You don't need an apology from a person who knew exactly what they were doing when they hurt you. You walked away, thinking you'd wait, thinking you'd crumble, thinking you'd lose yourself in the absence. He left behind, but you didn't. You were shocked, you were broken, you were on your knees. But you stood up, not because it didn't hurt, but because you refused to stay there. You refuse to be a victim in a story you're still writing. You refuse to let one person's weakness become your narrative. You are more loyal than he deserved, more forgiving than he earned, more present than he could handle. And he took it for granted. He thought you'd always be there. He thought you'd always be available. He thought you'd keep loving while he kept taking. But now you're empty of excuses, empty of hope for a future. With someone who couldn't even handle your heart. You don't beg for closure. You don't beg for someone to come back and fix what they willingly destroyed. You close the door yourself. You lock it. And you burn the blueprint of the person you were when you let him in. That version of you is kind, soft, hopeful. And she's not dead. She's just wiser. She still loves. But now she loves herself first. She still gives. But now she gives where it's mutual. She still believes in people. But now she believes in boundaries too. Because growth isn't just becoming better. It's becoming unavailable to the people who refuse to rise with you. He was comfortable with the old you. The one who shrunk for his ego. The one who held in her tears to keep the peace. The one who didn't ask for more because she didn't want to lose him. But he left anyway. And that's where you finally found freedom. You no longer compete for space in someone's heart. You no longer wait to be seen. You no longer fight for a seat at the table of someone who wouldn't even save you a chair. Because now you've built your own table, and you sit at the head of it. You don't beg for love. You radiate it. You don't chase after respect. You embody it. You don't ask for time. You command attention through presence. He thought you were just another girl who'd cry and stay quiet. He didn't know you were the storm. He didn't know you were a universe. He didn't know you were becoming his biggest regret. But now he does. Now he sees you glow. Now he feels the weight of your absence. Now he remembers the things you did without asking. The support you gave without conditions. The loyalty you showed without limits. And he can't unsee it, because what he took for granted, someone else will cherish. Someone else will protect. Someone else will say thank you, where he stayed silent. But you're not waiting for that someone else. You're becoming your own everything. You don't need saving. You are your own rescue mission. You don't need revenge. Your peace is proof that you've already won. And the best part, you didn't have to burn him down to rise. You just walked away, quietly, powerfully, with your head high and your soul intact. Because power doesn't yell. Power doesn't post paragraphs. Power doesn't expose. Power moves in silence and speaks in results. So, you work, you heal, you grow, you build the business, you shape the body, you master the mind, you become the person who intimidates everyone who tried to break you. Because you know now, you're dangerous. Not because you'll hurt anyone, but because you'll never let anyone hurt you like that again. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not bitter. You're boundaried. You're not unlovable. You're just done settling for unavailable people. He walked away like you were easy to leave, but you were the rare one. You were the diamond buried in his mess. You were the home. He could have built a life inside, but he wanted a playground. And now he's left with nothing but games. You don't look back, not because it doesn't still hurt sometimes, but because you finally love yourself enough to walk away from anything that makes you feel unworthy. He didn't just lose you. He lost everything that came with you. The support, the loyalty, the unmatched love, the safe space, the future, and that's what regret looks like. He may never say it, but he feels it. He sees it. Every time you win. Every time you post a smile. He didn't put there. Every time you laugh without needing his attention. Every time you keep moving while he's still stuck. That's regret. And that's your power. Not because you wanted to hurt him, but because you were strong enough to rise without him. So let him watch. Let him wonder. Let him sit in the distance he created. Because you're not just healing, you're ascending. And the view from up here, it doesn't include people who couldn't handle your depth. You don't apologize for growing. You don't apologize for outgrowing. You don't apologize for becoming someone who refuses to be broken again. He thought you'd fall apart, but you used the pieces as fuel. And now you burn brighter than he ever imagined. Not in spite, in power. Because he walked away like you were nothing. And that was his first mistake. Because now you're becoming everything. You're not the same anymore. You don't even flinch at the things that used to break you. You don't cry over people who don't respect their own blessings. Because you know now, you were a blessing, not a project, not a stepping stone, not an option, a blessing, a force, a light that walked into his life and tried to heal what he wouldn't even touch. And he couldn't handle that. He couldn't handle a woman who knew her worth but still gave love. He couldn't handle someone who called out his patterns with truth and grace. So he ran. Because cowards run when faced with reflection. He didn't want growth. He wanted comfort. He didn't want real. He wanted control. He didn't want a partner. He wanted praise without effort. But you're done praising potential. You're done falling for empty promises. You're done trying to teach someone how to love you while bleeding for their bare minimum. Now you give yourself everything you were waiting for. You don't wait to be chosen. You choose yourself every morning. You don't wait for an I miss you. You missed yourself enough to never want to lose her again. You don't wait for the apology that'll never come. You forgive yourself for staying too long, for loving too hard, for trusting too deep. And then you move on, not out of bitterness, out of self-respect. You don't stay where you're not seen anymore. You don't water gardens where nothing grew. You plant new seeds. You build new worlds. You create a future so full that the past can't compete. And that's what he'll never get back. Not just you, but everything you were becoming with him. Because now you're becoming without him. And that version of you, she's next level. She's building without noise. She's glowing without validation. She's healing without applause. She's moving in silence. And when she arrives, everyone will feel it, especially him. Not because you want him to hurt, but because you were the calm before his storm. And now you're the peace he'll never know again. He'll pretend he's fine. He'll post his new life. He'll smile in public, but behind closed doors, he remembers. He remembers the sound of your voice when you believed in him. He remembers the way you held him when the world didn't understand. He remembers the way you fought for him. He remembers the loyalty, the depth, the energy, the love. And no matter who comes next, they'll know. Because you can't replace soul with a warm body. You can't substitute depth with distraction. You can't run from what you destroyed when it was pure. He'll regret it quietly, repeatedly, forever. While you keep building, while you keep glowing, while you keep becoming. Every win you earn, he'll feel it. Every room you enter, he'll notice. Every time someone else smiles at you, like he never did, he'll break a little more. But you won't be watching, because you don't chase ghosts. You don't wait for closure. You don't live in the rearview mirror. You're too busy driving toward a destiny that doesn't include him. You're too focused on becoming everything he couldn't handle. And that's the power. Not in getting revenge, not in petty moves, but in evolution. Because when you level up in silence, they hear the echo for a lifetime. He thought you were a phase. You were a foundation. He thought you were replaceable. You were rare. He thought you'd stay stuck. You built an empire from your pain, and that's why you don't let him back in. Not out of pride, out of principle. Because the door he closed with disrespect doesn't get reopened with regret. You can love what was without returning to it. You can remember without repeating. You can mourn the dream without resurrecting the nightmare. You know now, love without loyalty isn't love. Attention without consistency isn't care. Promises without action are just pretty lies. And you're done with pretty lies. You want real. You want aligned. You want deep. And that starts with you. You speak kindly to yourself. You forgive yourself. You celebrate yourself. You don't wait to be validated. You walk like you're worth it. Because you are. You always were. He just couldn't see past his ego to recognize it. But that's not your responsibility anymore. You were the lesson, the mirror, the warning. And one day, he'll understand. Losing you wasn't just losing a person. It was losing a future he'll never touch again. And you'll keep walking, keep winning, keep becoming. Because he walked away like you were nothing. But now you're everything. You don't just survive this. You don't just move past this. You build a life so loud, their memory gets drowned out in your success. You craft a story so great, Their absence looks like a gift, not a loss. You don't mourn what left. You celebrate what's being created. You become someone that their imagination could never contain. You become the dream they can't reach anymore. You wake up every morning, not with bitterness, but with fire. You smile, not because it didn't hurt, but because you refuse to let it kill you. You love again, but this time, smarter. You trust again, but this time stronger. You open your heart again, but this time only to those who have earned it. You set standards, so high that only the brave even approach. You set boundaries, so strong that only the true stay. You don't build walls, you build gates, and not everyone gets access anymore. Because you know now, your time is valuable, your energy is sacred, your love is rare, and not everyone is equipped to carry it. You don't dim yourself to make others feel comfortable. You don't play small to keep others from feeling insecure. You don't apologize for having standards that filter out the unworthy. You stand tall in every room you enter. You walk like you own your life, because you do. You are not waiting for anyone to save you. You saved yourself. You are not waiting for apologies to heal. You healed through action. You are not waiting for closure. You closed that door with your own 2 hands. He walked away because he wasn't built for the depth you carry. And that's fine. You were never meant to drown in shallow water. Anyway, you were made for oceans. You were made for kingdoms. You were made for fire and glory and resilience. Every tear you shed was watering a new future. Every silent cry built unseen strength. Every lonely night was preparation for the life you're walking into. You didn't lose him. You lost a weight. You lost confusion. You lost settling. You lost delay. And in losing him, you found yourself. The self that doesn't flinch anymore. The self that doesn't settle. The self that looks in the mirror and sees a survivor, a creator, a warrior, not a victim, never a victim. He thought he was leaving you behind, but he was pushing you forward. He thought he was breaking you, but he was releasing your rage, your purpose, your power. He thought you'd fall apart, but you fell into destiny. The betrayal was a blessing. The rejection was redirection. The silence was a stage being set for your voice, to be heard louder than ever. You know now that you were never powerless. You were just too focused on loving someone who didn't love himself. And now you're free. Free to build. Free to breathe. Free to love yourself without limits. You're not here to beg for a place in someone else's story. You are here to write your own. You are not here to be chosen by someone who couldn't even choose himself. You are here to choose you every single day, until the world has no choice but to recognize what you always knew was true. You are the prize. You are the light. You are the standard. And now that you move with that energy, everything changes. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't explain. You don't shrink. You expand. You elevate. You attract what aligns and repel what doesn't. Not through force, through frequency, through who you've become. And they will feel it. He will feel it. Long after you've stopped thinking about him. Long after you've forgotten the sound of his excuses. Long after his name means nothing but a footnote in a chapter about growth. He will feel the absence of the woman who would have stood beside him at his worst. He will feel the absence of the heart that would have fought battles with him and for him. He will feel the absence of the loyalty he will never find again. Because once you grow to this level, you never return to places that couldn't hold you. You never return to hands that dropped you. You never returned to minds that underestimated you. You keep walking. You keep building. You keep becoming. And every win, every smile, every new breath of freedom is a monument to your strength. You didn't just survive heartbreak. You transcended it. You didn't just heal. You rose. You didn't just move on. You elevated beyond recognition. And that's what real power looks like. It's not revenge. It's reinvention. It's becoming so full, so whole, so unshakable that no betrayal could ever break you again. It's looking in the mirror and loving every scar, every lesson, every battle. Because they built you. You are the storm he wasn't ready for. You are the peace he will never know again. You are the story he'll tell in regretful whispers when he sees your name. Light up rooms he will never enter again. You are the force he helped create, but will never have access to again. And that's the real victory. So breathe deep, hold your head high, smile like you know a secret the world will find out soon.